Welcome back to another edition of the Day After Yesterday podcast. This week, it's just yours truly, John Raleigh. I had the opportunity recently to sit down virtually and have a conversation with a dentist here in town, Dr. Tim Herre. We were connected by a mutual client who was talking about tape in our mouths and breathing through our nose. And Dr. Tim Herre and I both share the same passion for nasal breathing and the effects that it has not only on our physiology, but our mental performance. And as he digs into ADD, ADHD, and a whole host of other issues that we're running into in the health community, and he is using his dental practice as a to be an advocate for nasal breathing, and he's showing his clients and his patients incredible results. So it was nice to sit down and kind of talk to somebody not on the fitness scene about the importance of nasal breathing from a pure health perspective and what he's doing to help kids, adults, and anybody he gets to work with, encourages them to nasal breathe. So I've got this little tape in my hand, and I've been shouting it from the rooftops, and I'm grateful more than ever to hear that somebody else inside the medical world is doing the same. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. It's about 20 minutes, and Tim is full of all sorts of great information. I learned a lot, and I hope you do as well. Enjoy. Dr. Tim Herre, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's exciting.
We've been talking about nasal breathing here in the gym for several years. And selfishly, I wanted to talk to you. You were actually introduced to us by David Peel, who's a client of ours, a mutual client of yours as well. And he came up to us and he says, my dentist is talking about nasal breathing. And he was saying all the things that we had been saying in the gym. And I think my head almost exploded because from our standpoint, we preach prevention and, eating meat and vegetables and getting exercise and sunshine and doing all these things that produce long-term benefits, but you don't see the short-term ramifications after one day. And to hear a medical professional sharing that wisdom, again, my head almost exploded with gratitude. So first of all, I just want to say thank you again for joining us. But second of all, I want to ask you, why are we excited and why are we talking about nasal breathing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, kind of like hearing other people, talk about this topic is super exciting. It's fun for me because, kind of like what you're talking about, root cause prevention, what got me into nasal breathing, part of it myself, seeing how I breathe and my nose is as well. But, as we're, working on, trying to help kids or adults with, dental issues, you come to find out that a lot of reason people are, developing cavities or, TMJ type issues or sleep apnea or kids need orthodontics and braces and wisdom teeth taken out, is really a byproduct of how we breathe and how we grow and develop in modern society where, a lot of us are mouth breathers instead of nasal breathers. And there's a lot of ramifications and consequences from it.
Now, what would be one of them?
Well, from a pure dental.
From a dental perspective, because selfishly to talk to you, I want the people hear it from a different angle versus we talk a lot about performance and mechanics and endurance, but I want to hear more from a dental or medical standpoint.
Yeah, so I'm sure you've preached and talked to everybody about even like the protective breathing or nasal breathing, how you can increase your stamina and rewire the way your body and your nervous system functions and breathes and all that, which is fascinating as well. Kind of from a medical dental standpoint, that one thing we see people that mouth breathe at nighttime or wake up with dry chapped lips, or their bed partner says they snore, or their mouth, they got drool on their pillow. People are more prone to having cavities. Their mouth becomes more dry. The environment in the mouth becomes more acidic, allows the disease causing bacteria to proliferate, cavities form, people have bad breath, things like that. In growing kids, if your kid is their mouth's hanging open in their car seat, or their mouth breathing, or you hear them labored breathing, or they snore or grind their teeth, those are all abnormal signs. And, it's not a sign of proper growth and development. So a reason a lot of these young kids, and adults are, needing so many rounds of orthodontics or to have their wisdom teeth out, and the jaw structure is not big enough, is all because of mouth breathing. When the mouth's hanging open, the tongue's not resting against the palate and the upper jaw. And the tongue is what guides our jaw and our face to grow. If the face doesn't grow and the skeleton's not big enough, then from a dental standpoint, you need to have braces for a long time, or you have to have teeth taken out. And there's long-term ramifications for that. We do a lot of TMJ sleep apnea treatment, and a lot of adults that need treatment had teeth taken out when they were young because their mouth was too small. And that alters their breathing. If you think about it, that nose and the airway runs through the upper jaw, and the upper jaw where the teeth fit is the nose. So if that's too small and the teeth don't fit, someone can't breathe out of their nose as well. And so one thing we've learned is if you can just almost like first line of defense, if you can teach somebody to rewire their breathing patterns and habits to breathe out of their nose, you can reverse or a lot of those things, or it really helps my treatment so they need less dentistry long term and the work holds up better, or the treatment's more successful, and so on.
Now, I was reading through your bio, and you're starting to see patients at ages of 2 or 3. Tell me about
Correct.
the littles that you're working with and what happens from that. You're not throwing braces on a
No, no,
toddler.
no. No, you hear a lot about, phase one of orthodontics nowadays, and it's really just, guiding the growth of the jaws and the face in the right direction. So, some of those, things I just mentioned of, if the kid's snoring or grinding their teeth, things like that. Or a big one is if the kid wets their bed, or they have ADD, ADHD, they act up in school, it's hard for them to concentrate. Those are all signs that they may not be sleeping well. And if they're not sleeping well, we know they're not breathing well. And, that's the byproduct of it. If a kid isn't sleeping and breathing well, they act out during the day. You and I may just go to Starbucks and get the biggest coffee that we can get and all that. And so, kids are overly medicated sometimes from that. So young kids, if they're having issues, you want to screen them for if their tonsils or adenoids are too big, and sometimes just getting their tonsils out helps them keep their lips together and they breathe better. So it's just kind of that initial, conversation and consultation with the parent to start to see if there's issues. And young kids, you're not putting braces on them, but there's removable, like we call them, like growth guides or habit correctors that we use on young kids to just try to rewire that breathing pattern, keep the lips together, the tongue on the roof of the mouth, and teach the parents, breathing exercises, probably the same breathing exercises you've, taught your clients and use in the gym. We teach the parents or teach the kids how to do.
What would be an example of that?
Where you breath holds, for example, where, you can, belly breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, where, just very calm, relaxed breathing, exhale completely out of your belly, hold your nose, you can tip your head up and back, or with kids, we have them take steps, 5 steps, 10 steps, 15 steps, see how many they can do while holding their nose and holding their breath, building up that CO2 capacity in the body, and, trying to kind of reframe how the body, takes a breath and all that. And if we can keep the tongue against the roof of the mouth and that breathing pattern, that develops into adulthood. If a kid mouth breathes, snores, grinds their teeth as a kid, it's going to translate into, being an adult. It's not one of those things where everybody's like, oh, your kid's, 3 years old, they're just going to grow out of it. By and large, they don't, unless you take the inflammation out of their diet. You fix their tonsils, their nasal breathing, and all these things.
Interesting. You bring up diet as a part of this, but which I want to come back to. But for right now, so I know the reaction that I get when I talk to somebody about nasal breathing. What is the reaction that you get when talking to parents, and perhaps not treading lightly on how nasal breathing could perhaps improve or help their ability to pay attention during the day?
Surprisingly, a lot of, especially moms, are very perceptive of what's going on with their kids. And they're happy to hear that there's I guess you could call it an answer or a solution, because sometimes they're like, oh, I kind of thought something was wrong, or, I've gone to a lot of, other, professionals, and, I've not heard validated, and they just think I'm crazy, and thank you for having an answer. Or, the other one is just like, why is my dentist talking about my breathing and all that, and, the American Dental Association in 2017 came out with a white paper that's saying all dentists should screen people and kids for sleep apnea and airway disorders. So, it's been going on the steam's been building up for a while, like how you told me, were lip taping for your exercises years ago. It's just kind of slowly, I think hopefully building that, groundswell.
That's excellent. Now
Yeah.
talk about nutrition. So your practice, so when somebody comes to your practice, you're not just going to treat their teeth. You mentioned nutrition. So how
Yeah.
does that conversation play into your role as a dental practitioner?
It's pretty easy because everybody's always been told, don't drink like 6 Dr. Peppers a day, or you're going to get cavities. So, you can, bring up, nutrition, pretty easily, if someone's got, cavity or decay and things like that. And one thing we've learned with, proper nutrition, if, what's good for the body is good for the teeth and good for the mouth, good for our gut and all that. So, and our teeth actually, and they're not just innate objects, they're living, and they have their own immunity and immune cells in them. And if you're feeding them, a diet high in, fat soluble vitamins like vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin K2, things like that, that you're nourishing your teeth. It's what humans have had forever. And, we've always had our own built-in, cavity fighter or toothpaste, you could say, from our diet and the way we take care of it. And, all of, what we're dealing with now is all modern processed foods, the standard American diet and things that lead into it. But what we preach on kids is, 2 big things is the gluten and dairy. If there's a lot of inflammation in the body or inflammation in the sinuses and within the nose, the nose is always going to be stuffed up. So they have to breathe out of their mouth. And if they have to breathe out of their mouth, it alters the growth of the face, growth of the jaw, the teeth become crowded. They develop so many their tonsils become big. They develop potentially asthma and certain things.
Can you talk to me? So I've heard this said, and I've read it, and I believe it, but I don't understand it. So if I'm not able to breathe through my nose, how does that actually physically change the growth of my jaw?
So our tongue is the body's natural. Our tongue is just a strong muscle, and it's our body's natural growth mechanism of the jaw. So it all starts as an infant. When you're breastfeeding a child, the tongue rests in the mouth in a certain position where it starts to form the jaw, and the tongue starts to form the face from that sucking habit. And so if a kid has a tongue tie and they can't breastfeed properly, things like that, that's kind of the first domino for a lot of these kids. And then, the tongue tie is one thing that can trap the tongue at the bottom of the mouth. But if the mouth's hanging open, the tongue is pushing down and it's pushing forward. So the face is going to grow. Like most modern Americans, like myself included, have more long, narrow faces because the jaw is growing further down and
I'm
forward.
touching my face right
Yeah.
now and thinking
Like, as I've learned all that, so I'm like, crap, this is like totally me. But, and when that happens, if the face is growing more narrow and the tongue's not resting against the upper jaw, that the inner part of the nose becomes more narrow as well, because the upper jawbone, the maxilla, is the floor of the nose. So if someone says I have a high palate or a narrow palate, or, my dentist told me I have got, a small mouth or a big tongue, it's almost always the jaw structure is just too small. Like the cage inside the mouth for all these things is too small. And it's all just goes down to the skeletal structure. And that's what everything boils down to. Sleep apnea, TMJ, orthodontics, it all boils down to the skeletal structure of the face and the jaws and how they develop.
Fascinating. Now we talked last week offline. You said, pre-modern times, you would not have a job as a dentist.
Yeah, it's funny to think about.
So specifically, explain why.
So, we talked about diet and nutrition a little bit ago, and a lot of these things boil down to just a handful of things. What a lot of the research is showing, and there's a dentist in the 1930s, Weston Price, who's got a, kind of a famous foundation of nutrition and diet and, all these types of things that, you all may be aware about. But, he traveled the world and found
I didn't know he was a dentist.
Yeah. That Weston
I've read
Price
about him. I've read about his studies, but I did not know he was a dentist.
Yeah. And there's a younger dentist in Australia who wrote the Dental Diet, who talks a lot about this type of stuff and nutrition, how this all relates, is kind of a Weston Price disciple in a way. But anyway, that, what he found, as traveling the world, these indigenous populations had things in common, and you'd have people that in their 20s and 30s had never been to a dentist before. Beautiful smiles, no cavities, all of the teeth came in. They didn't have braces. They had big jaws and big faces like our ancestors did. And you could take those same people and put them in a standard American diet. Within one generation, their mouth breathing. They could have diabetes. They have systemic inflammation, metabolic disease, and all types of things if they're drinking Coca-Cola, eating processed foods, and all those things. So our diet is a huge one from the get-go. And part of the diet is soft food, like baby food, all those soft packets and mushy foods that, we just suck down because we're kind of fearful the babies may choke. Those never used to be around. Like part of the way our jaw develops in our develops room for the airway is chewing on hard food, like jerky or broccoli or carrots, things that you have to actually use your jaw muscles for. So like in your gym, you're lifting weights all day to, build your muscles. You build your jaw muscles in your face from chewing.
Right.
It's same type of concept with all that. And then kind of a third one is most modern humans are bottle fed instead of breastfed. It's more fast-paced culture. Moms don't have as much time, or they can't because it hurts, and maybe the baby's got a tongue tie, all types of things, and so they become embarrassed. And so there's kind of a whole thing with that. Or the pacifiers. I mean, pacifiers are a big one. Shouldn't really be used much past 12 months because that suckling habit on those things on a bottle or a pacifier is different than coming from mom. And so those are like big three things that have completely altered the growth and development of our face, and really is the main factor of why people have sleep apnea nowadays and why some of these things are such an epidemic.
That's interesting. I have to apologize to our oldest because we had a friend of ours, a pediatrician. She was in town staying with us, and she asked if he was still using a binky, and we said yes, and he had just turned a year.
Yeah.
And she said the same thing as you. So I went upstairs, ripped it out of his mouth,
Yeah.
and that was it.
It's such a hard thing because it's that it just makes your life as a parent so much easier. But
oh, sure,
we just don't know the ramifications of some of these things because it's just this has become the new normal in all that and stuff.
Right. What's your favorite story so far of someone that you've helped through? I wouldn't call this easy, but it's definitely simple through this simple intervention.
Honestly, the most simple thing that we do, like you do, as I said, trying to get someone to breathe out of their nose first and foremost, that the simplest thing you can have is lip tape. There's no medication involved, there's no surgery, not much cost. And, if you can try it and tolerate it, the best stories are always the ones where, they come in, I'm snoring, I'm sleeping down the hall, my wife's miserable, something like that. Honestly, they put on some lip tape, they can keep their mouth closed. They're not snoring anymore. They're not in the doghouse. I mean, that one you hear time and time again with all that. Or, another common one is you put lip tape on someone and, a couple days later, they're like, should I be dreaming at nighttime? Like I'm having these like really fascinating dreams and I wake up feeling really refreshed. And it's like, yeah, your body's actually, your brain is energized and refreshed now and all that. So I hear those two a lot.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
Is your wife taping her mouth shut?
Oh, we've both been doing it for a long time. So we look sexy at night. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Both have mouth appliances, use that clear nasal spray, that saline, that xylitol rinse, put our lip tape on, go to bed, and yeah, that's it.
so that's the routine. And it sounds like you guys take your sleep seriously.
Yeah, we do. I mean, especially, learning, all this myself trying to, and I'm kind of like you, still in the process of trying, it's fun to kind of experiment and tweak and, see what works, what may not work. And, so yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of that going on.
What's the biggest benefit that you've noticed personally since you've got into this?
Oh, I honestly, just like not needing, feeling like I need caffeine all day. I mean, because I taking a sleep test, I have something called upper airway resistance syndrome, which basically it's when people have a smaller, narrow nose, and they don't breathe out of their nose very well. It's a very mild form of sleep apnea, but it really impacts the people that have that UARS. Typically, just get a lot of light sleep. So I'm like, I slept 8 hours, but I'm just so tired. Like, what's going on? And that would be me, or you need more sleep and stuff. So once I started lip taping and stuff, I'm getting much more quality sleep, and even using some like metrics to track it and things like that, or follow it up like sleep studies to check your oxygenation levels and all that. Yeah, like mid-afternoon, I'm still kind of rolling, and there's still days, but I just feel much more energized.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share about your practice? How people can find you? Because I'm very enthused that you have this message. It's incredibly positive. How do we find you?
Yeah, right now our website is dentalhealthbyharry.com, and same thing on social media. You kind of at Dental Health by Harry, and in the process of kind of finalizing a new center that we've been working on building for a while to deal with all these things, and hopefully get a kind of my philosophy with kind of root cause treatment. It is not a silo. It involves a collaboration with people where a lot of people may require going to a gym and exercise, and exercise stimulates the brain and the neurons, and fights off some of this stuff that's going on. So that's the big part. Like you guys play a part in all this stuff with your message and what you do. So developing kind of a center like that called the Breathe to Thrive Center, and a new website, breathethrive.com, is almost live. So within the next week or two, I hope, and that'll kind of be our new go-to resource for info and all that.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have to salute you. I'm grateful that our paths have connected. I look forward to connecting more in the future. But keep spreading the message of nasal breathing, and we promise we'll do
you
the same.
too. Like when you told me you were doing like running your gym classes, years ago with lip taping, I thought that was one of the coolest things too. Because I just like kind of like you don't hear a lot of other people talk about it. When you do, your ear kind of perks up. Like, well, yeah, wait a minute, like what's going on?
I will say, do not post that to social media though. We had
Oh
some
yeah,
pictures from a class where
yeah.
everybody had their mouth taped shut. It's like, okay, there needs to be some explanation.
Honestly, like just one quick thing, like with that, like it does freak people out when you say lip taping, but my experience is when I put my I look forward to it. When I put my lip tape on at night, I feel like instantly relaxed. Like I just feel calm, and like I can just, I can take a very shallow, like, just like a deep exhale, and I'm ready for bed. So,
I
when you get used to it, I mean, I think it hopefully should be a calming thing because your body's kind of primed and all that and stuff. If you do your breathing exercises right. But yeah, it looks scary, but it's deep down, it's a really good thing.
No, you're right. The word I use is cocoon. When I put it on, I
Yeah,
feel like I'm in my cocoon. I'm safe. I get into that
yeah,
parasympathetic state after running around all day, and
yeah.
I'm able to wind down.
That's I'll take that. That's a good analogy and all that.
So that's it's almost 5 o'clock while we're recording this. So you've got me
Yeah,
thinking about bedtime, but still a
there you
lot to
go.
accomplish this afternoon. So
Yeah,
Dr. Harry, I really appreciate your time. It's been
yeah,
great
John.
catching up with
Thanks.
you, and wish you guys nothing but the best.
Yeah, you guys are doing awesome things. So keep it up. Great chatting with you.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed that and took a little grain of knowledge from it. And hopefully that's encouraging you to take this little roll of tape and put it on your lips before you go to bed at night, and or while you're exercising, or just be more cognizant of it through the day. Coming from a dentist, it's a big deal. Same people tell you not to eat candy. We share that trait as well. But tape up. Let us know how you feel, and if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, please feel free to reach out. Take care, and we'll see you guys soon.